Okay, so our Zoom meetings are being conducted as securely as possible. However, please keep in mind that there are possible risks associated with any online forum. By participating in our Zoom meetings, you agree not to record, although I am with consent, as you heard, or share any portion of this meeting. We also ask that everyone use their first name only. Some of us use the last initial and where we're from. And if you need help renaming yourself on screen, we can help you do that. Maybe I could make somebody, Betty, can I make you a co-chair so you could help with the last names? Just sorry, give me a second, everybody. Okay. Okay, so to avoid any background noise, please remember to mute your microphones unless you're sharing. So we'll start now with a moment of silence uh, for the friends and family members who have not yet found the rooms of Naranon, and followed by the Serenity Prayer, which will be on the screen, and it's also on page 1 of the Blue Book. It will be on the screen when I can find it. Hmm. Sorry about that. I can't find my thanks for your patience, everyone. It's there. Progress, not perfection. So you don't learn a whole lot in 3 years in terms of hosting a meeting, but there's a lot more that you will learn. There we go. Okay, the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Since we are a virtual meeting, let's honor each other's presence fully, as if we're gathered in a room together. So if you can't fully be present for everyone or for all of the meeting, we welcome you to remain. But please turn your video off and mute your audio to keep distractions at a minimum. This includes when you're smoking or vaping. Just turn your camera off. Okay, so now we're just going to do a couple of our readings. Pam, can you read the newcomers welcome?
Yes, I can.
Thanks. Go ahead.
Yep. The Naranon family group is primarily for you who know or have known a feeling of desperation concerning the addiction problem of someone very near to you. We have traveled that unhappy road too and found the answer with serenity and peace of mind. When you come into the family group, you're no longer alone, but among true friends who understand your problem as few others could. We will respect your confidence and anonymity as we know you will respect ours. We hope to give you the assurance that no situation is too difficult and no unhappiness is too great to overcome. Our program, which is not a religious one, but a spiritual way of life, is based on the 12 steps of Naranan. We have found that the working of these steps will bring the solution to practically any problem. We urge you to take this program and its 12 steps seriously. It has been as helpful to us as the Narcotics Anonymous program is to the addict. We only ask for the wisdom and courage to see ourselves as we really are, to do something about ourselves with the help of a higher power as we understand this, and for the grace to release our addicts with love and cease trying to change them. Keep an open mind and attend as many meetings as possible. Feel free to share during the meeting. You may ask questions after the meeting. You will soon make new friends and will feel very much a part of the group. With the understanding that addiction is a disease and the realization that we are powerless over it, as well as over other people's lives, we are ready to do something useful and constructive with our own. Then, and only then, can we be of any help to others. Thank you for letting me read.
Thank you. Okay, can I, how about if I just pick someone for the 12 steps? Betty, can you do the 12 steps?
Sure.
Thanks.
The 12 steps of the Nar-Anon family groups. Number 1, we admitted we were powerless over the addict, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to others and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Thank you for letting me say.
Thanks, Betty. And for the 12 traditions, I wonder if I could call on Lois to do the first 6 and Marie to do the next 6.
Certainly.
Putting you
Okay.
on the spot, but I appreciate it.
The 12 traditions of Nar-Anon family groups. Our group experience suggests that the unity of the Nar-Anon family groups depends upon our adherence to these traditions. 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal progress for the greatest number depends on unity. 2, for our group purposes, there is but one authority, a loving God as He may express Himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. 3, the relatives of addicts, when gathered for mutual aid, may call themselves a Nar-Anon family group, provided that as a group they have no other affiliation. The only requirement for membership is that there be a problem of addiction in a relative or friend. 4, each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other Nar-Anon family groups or NA as a whole. 5, each Nar-Anon family group has but one purpose, to help families of addicts. We do this by practicing the 12 steps of Nar-Anon, by encouraging and understanding our addicted relatives, and by welcoming and giving comfort to families of addicts. 6, our family groups ought never to endorse, finance, or lend our name to any outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary spiritual aim. But although a separate entity, we should always cooperate with Narcotics Anonymous.
Thank you. You're on mute, Marie.
7, thank you. Every group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8, Nar-Anon 12-step work should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9, our groups as such ought never to be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10, the Nar-Anon family groups have no opinion in outside issues. Hence, our name ought never to be drawn into public controversy. 11, our public relations policies based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, films, internet, and other forms of mass media. We need to guard with special care the anonymity of all NA members. 12, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions. ever reminding us to place principles above personalities. Thank you.
Thank
Letting me
you.
read.
Thank you. And then the last person I'm going to call on is Carolyn. Carolyn E., can you read today's sesh?
I would love to. Is that going up on the screen too, or am I
It
grabbing my
is.
book?
No, it's going on the screen.
Okay.
And here you go.
Just because there are new people here, I'm gonna public service announcement. So when we refer to SESH, which means sharing, it's an acronym for Sharing Experience, Strength, and Hope. And this is the SESH book. It's a really awesome book. It's a daily reader written, the stories are written by Nar-Anon members for Nar-Anon members. Greatest thing for me at the beginning, especially at the beginning of my life dealing with addiction, is when I was waking up in the middle of the night and I couldn't sleep, or I was waking up with really horrible thoughts. I could go to my SESH book and I could actually look up the word at the back of the book. So if I was frustrated and angry or scared or whatever, I could actually look the word up in the back of the book and it would give me all the readings. So one of two things would happen. I would either feel really, really great after reading these stories and it would allow me to go back to sleep, or I would just fall asleep reading. But ultimately, I got back to sleep. So that's available on Kindle. So through Amazon, either amazon.ca or amazon.com, depending on where you live. And it's also available in hardcover as well, softcover as well. Anyway, June 20th, open-minded and willing. I had been in Nar-Anon for several years, but I was still having a difficult time. I was still feeling hopeless and frustrated. I didn't believe the program was working. I felt that my recovery was not happening fast enough and that my higher power was not helping me. I continued to make bad decisions, had a bad attitude, and lectured and argued with the addict in my life. The same character defects I listed in my 4th step inventory a year earlier were still plaguing me. I knew my character defects and had admitted them to anyone who would listen. Why wasn't God removing them? A fellow member suggested that I needed to go back and study step 6. He asked me if I was entirely ready for my higher power's help. He believed that his higher power removes only what he is entirely ready to let go. He suggested it might be possible that I still valued my old behaviors and wasn't ready to let them go. With that suggestion, I was truly able to truly work this 6th step by examining the reasons that I was holding on to the defects. By trusting in my higher power, I found the courage to be entirely ready to move forward. Thought for today, I must be willing to open to change. If I'm still focused on the past and the addict and I'm trying to control others, I'm not open to allowing my higher power to remove my defects of character. And the quote, our dilemma is that we hate change and love it at the same time. What we really want is for things to remain the same, but get better. Sydney J. Harris. Thanks for letting me read.
Thank you. And thank you for your service announcement. Always appreciated. So very quickly, I'm just going to read a couple announcements. One is, of course, our 7th tradition, I think. I can't find them right now. Let's put those on hold to between the speakers. I don't want to waste any more time. Okay. Anything you hear tonight is strictly our own opinion. The principles of Nar-Anon are found in our 12 steps and 12 traditions. If a member says something here tonight that you can't accept, remember that he or she is merely speaking from their own experience. They're not speaking for Nar-Anon. When you leave our meeting, take home those thoughts that will be most helpful to you. Forget those you feel will not be helpful and keep coming back. There are members who are also members of more than one 12-step program. That's great, but at this meeting, we focus strictly on Nar-Anon. We don't talk about other therapies, other readings, etc., etc. And also at these meetings, only one person speaks at a time. We do not engage in dialogue, debate, or crosstalk during the meeting. So that means that as our speakers are speaking, we don't ask questions and we don't comment. So that's really important. But if you are interested in something they said, you can hang around after the meeting and ask them then. This is the point in our meeting where I'm going to introduce our first speaker. And so our speakers tonight are members. They're both members of Naranon, and they're also members of this group, which is so exciting. So first on our agenda tonight is Cheryl. So Cheryl, I'm going to turn it over to you. And yeah, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Cheryl. Thank you, Lisa, for asking and encouraging me to tell my story. I hope I can get through it with as few tears as possible. Wish me luck. My husband and I were blessed with two beautiful daughters. Excuse me. My oldest daughter is a nurse, is married with a beautiful family, and is an incredible support to me. My youngest daughter, who is 36, is the person who brings me to the rooms of Naranon. My oldest daughter is in this room tonight to show her love and support, and I appreciate it greatly. I believe a factor that contributed to my daughter's addiction was losing her grandmother, my mother-in-law, in 2007 when she was 18. She didn't process her grief and didn't talk about her feelings. During my daughter's journey, she has been a highly functioning addict at times. She attended college after high school, and although she completed 3 or 4 years, she couldn't find something that she truly wanted to do. She then pursued an online HR course through an Alberta university. On June 7th, 2012, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I had surgery and 21 radiation treatments, and on July 9th of this year, I will be celebrating 13 years of being cancer-free. My oldest daughter was a godsend during that time. Her knowledge and support helped me immensely through my journey. She attended my appointments with my husband and I, took notes, and answered the many questions that we had after appointments because we were on information overload. My youngest daughter didn't talk about or process her feelings about my diagnosis and wasn't able to offer any support at that time. In February 2013, 5 months after I completed my cancer treatment, my mom passed away. I believe this caused my addicted loved one's life to further unravel. She was 24 at that time. Again, she didn't process her grief and continued to tell me that she was okay. She was continuing her classes, or so she told us, but things continued to just be off with her. While we knew most of her friends, she was hanging out with new friends that we didn't know, but she was an adult, and that's normal, right? Her behavior became more out of the ordinary, and she started doing things that were out of character for her. She would sleep at odd hours, stopped having dinner with my husband and I, tried to avoid personal interaction with us, and stopped coming home at night without letting us know. All of these were signs of addiction, but I was completely naive and had absolutely no idea what these things meant. By the spring of 2014, there were no explanations that made sense for her bizarre behavior. My oldest daughter had also noticed her sister's odd behavior, and we both came to the same conclusion at the same time. It must be drugs. I kept refusing to think of drugs as an explanation for her behavior because my niece had been an addict and our family lost her to suicide. Our whole family witnessed the pain and devastation that losing her caused, so I naively believed that neither of my daughters would go down that road, while they both saw firsthand the chaos and heartbreak of addiction. We then discovered that my daughter was dating a man 13 years older than she was. He had 3 children and 2 ex-wives. My husband and I were never introduced to her boyfriend. We would also learn that he too was an addict. My daughter told us that she graduated from university and earned her degree. When I asked to see her degree because I was proud of her accomplishment, she had many reasons why she couldn't show me her degree, but continued to maintain that she had earned it. I would later discover unopened university textbooks and had to accept that my daughter threw away her opportunity of getting a degree. This broke my heart, but I had to come to terms with the fact that the dreams I had for my daughter were just that, my dreams, not hers. When my husband and I finally asked her whether she was using drugs, because nothing else made sense, she vehemently denied it. We had to accept the fact that our beautiful, intelligent, funny, kind-hearted daughter was an addict. It was incomprehensible and broke our hearts. Shortly after that conversation, she left home and went to Manitoba with her boyfriend. As I would discover, this would become my daughter's pattern to run away from her problems when life got real. During this journey, our oldest daughter was dating an amazing man. They moved in together, and in February 2015, they eloped. We were over the moon happy for them. Our son-in-law was a great and much welcomed addition to our family, although joining our family happened the day we met him, not the day they got married. Unfortunately, addiction touched his family as well, and because of his experience with addiction, he has been a great support to our family. After they eloped, they planned to have a small celebration with family and friends in June of that year. The small celebration slowly got bigger and bigger and turned into a second wedding ceremony and a reception. My oldest daughter's wish was for her sister to be her maid of honor. As the celebration got closer, things deteriorated greatly with my ALO and the rest of the family, and she refused to be maid of honor for her sister. My oldest daughter was devastated that her sister wouldn't be part of the wedding ceremony. On June 13th, 2015, our family had the absolute best wedding celebration and party that we've ever had. It was pure joy. The day was filled with so much love and happiness, and everyone had a great time. All of our close friends and family were there. Everyone except our ALO. This was one of the many, many special occasions that my ALO has missed. It was heartbreaking that she was not there for the celebration, but it was an indication of the state of her disease. We now know that my daughter suffers from addiction as well as mental illness. My daughter will not address her mental illness. We discovered shortly before the celebration that my ALO was pregnant. In all honesty, I was furious because I knew she was still using, and I could only imagine the damage that her using was causing her unborn child. My oldest daughter reached out to CAS, Children's Aid Society, to express her concerns about two active addicts caring for a newborn baby. They recorded her concerns, but that was it, or so we believed. Our beautiful granddaughter was born on August 21st, 2015. She was given medication to treat her withdrawal symptoms. My ALO was not in contact with me at that time, but she did advise my husband of the birth of her daughter. My family was extremely disappointed and frankly disgusted that CAS had done nothing to help or protect this innocent baby and allowed the baby to be released to their care. What we didn't know was that CAS was involved and had put a plan in place to protect my granddaughter. The plan involved a friend living with my daughter, her boyfriend, and my granddaughter to ensure her safety. At this point, no one in our family had met my granddaughter. The plan CAS had developed lasted for 7 weeks. On October 13th, 2015, my granddaughter was apprehended from my daughter and her boyfriend for not abiding by the plan put in place to protect their daughter. She was put in foster care. As CAS staff were removing the baby from the apartment, my ALO called her sister to ask if she would take custody of her baby. It took 4 weeks for that to happen, during which time my daughter and son-in-law had to have police checks done, be drug tested, and had to obtain letters of reference and medical clearance. On November 12, 2015, my granddaughter went home. Deep breath. With my daughter and son-in-law. They were and always will be my heroes. That is the day I met my granddaughter and held her in my arms for the first time. For my husband and I to be able to babysit our granddaughter, we also had to have police checks conducted as well. We gladly did this, but it certainly emphasized the sadness and stark reality of the situation. My daughter and son-in-law taking custody of my granddaughter started out as a temporary situation. It was done with the intention that my daughter and her boyfriend would get help, would get clean, and regain custody of their daughter. In November 2015, my husband was diagnosed with prostate cancer. He had surgery in January 2016 and stayed in remission for a few years. My addicted loved one went to her first rehab in September 2016 and came home to live after she left treatment. She was doing well in her recovery, and my daughter and son-in-law allowed her supervised visits with her daughter in our home. However, her recovery was short-lived when her boyfriend died in jail of a drug overdose on December 26, 2016, when his daughter was 16 months old. In the meantime, my oldest daughter and son-in-law were expecting a daughter. On February 1st, 2017, our second beautiful granddaughter was born. She was another beautiful addition to our family. We discovered that my ALO was using while living in our home, and we had to ask her to leave in the spring of 2017. She attended her second rehab in November 2017 and stayed in recovery for a short period of time. She was managing to work a part-time job and was renting a room. I wasn't communicating regularly with my ALO, and then COVID hit, which changed everything. During that time, whether we could have been visiting or not, we couldn't because of COVID. During that time, though, I was able to take a step back and start processing some of my own trauma caused by this terrible disease. Since my family's journey, I hadn't had time to process my feelings about anything that had happened. There was never time because while trying to regroup from dealing with one shit show with my ALO, the next shit show arrived. I truly believe that every member of my family has PTSD because of this disease and the absolutely horrible interactions that we've had with our addict. In January 2021, my husband's cancer returned. He received 33 radiation treatments and to this day remains in remission. Thank God. In the fall of 2021, my daughter asked my husband and I if we would send her to rehab. We initially said no because she had done nothing to prove that that was what she wanted. To us, they were just words, and my daughter is great at using words. After much consideration, we agreed to send her to rehab and cover the cost. My husband and I both felt that if we denied her request, that neither of us could have lived with the guilt if anything would have happened to her. We also explained to our daughter that due to the cost of the treatment, this would be a one-time deal. During this time, both of my sisters offered their unwanted opinions, interfered in the situation, and made an already difficult time even worse. Unfortunately, to this day, I don't have a relationship with either of my sisters. I do, however, have a great relationship with my sister-in-law. She's a great listener and a great support for me. In November 2021, we allowed my daughter to come home to live after treatment, but again, her recovery was short-lived. In 2022, she left our house on good terms. At that time, I was still doing what I believed was helping her. However, when I joined Nar-Anon, I discovered it's actually called enabling. I found her a wonderful room in a wonderful home with a wonderful landlord. But it didn't end well when the landlord discovered that my daughter stole from him and his family. In about 2021 or so, my oldest granddaughter began having behavioral issues and could sometimes be very, very difficult. Her meltdowns and tantrums were epic. Back in 2015, CAS had advised my daughter and son-in-law that my granddaughter could, unfortunately, face challenges in life because of my daughter's drug use while she was pregnant. My granddaughter received counseling and saw a behavioral pediatrician who diagnosed her with ADHD. She takes daily medication for this. She was recently diagnosed with FASD, fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, which can be extremely challenging to deal with. To say this child was dealt an unfair hand is an understatement. But I completely believe that my granddaughter is where she is meant to be, in a loving, secure, safe environment, receiving the best support and care that she needs. My youngest granddaughter was diagnosed with cerebral palsy when she was 14 months old. Thankfully, her CP is mild and will never progress, but it is still a disorder not to be taken lightly. My daughter and son-in-law have some very, very difficult days as they care for two children with special needs and have and will do anything for these two precious girls. My husband and I offer them support in any way we can. Part of that support included us happily leaving our forever home to move to the same city that they live in. We are very involved in both of our granddaughters' lives and could not love them more. We see them all the time, and on the days we don't, our girls call us to video chat. Although my granddaughters are biologically cousins, they are being raised as sisters and love each other immensely, and most of the time are the best of friends. They are treated equally by their parents. Yes, my oldest granddaughter calls her aunt and uncle mommy and daddy and refers to them as her parents. Although this started out as a temporary situation, 9.5 years later, my granddaughter is in the only home that she's ever known. My daughter and son-in-law were granted permanent custody of her many years ago. Both of our granddaughters are completely amazing little girls. They are happy, extremely intelligent, funny, friendly, and kind-hearted. They are both thriving in their lives and in the home that my daughter and son-in-law have provided both of them. My youngest granddaughter quite often says that she has the best family ever. My addicted loved one has not seen her daughter in person since March of 2022. The CAS custody order that is in place says that she must produce 4 clean drug screens a week to be able to have in-person supervised visits with her daughter. She has not provided screens at all for years and disputes the necessity of 4. My daughter and granddaughter would communicate by video chatting, but even that had to be stopped at the recommendation of my granddaughter's doctors. It was not an easy decision for my daughter and son-in-law to make, to stop the communication, and they didn't make the decision lightly. They saw and lived with the effects, the constant lies that my granddaughter was being told my addicted loved one were causing. The lies were causing her to be constantly confused, upset, and disappointed. Because my granddaughter doesn't yet know how to express her feelings about the lies or is unwilling to, her behavior would result in a huge meltdown, which sometimes would involve throwing and destroying things and being violent with my daughter and son-in-law. We've noticed a difference in my granddaughter once the communication stopped. She still has many moments, but she seems calmer. I know she misses her biological mother a lot, and is, I imagine, confused and deeply hurt that her mom doesn't do what she needs to do to see her. For me, it has been 3 years since I've seen my daughter in person. In November 2022, my father-in-law, the only grandfather that my addicted loved one knew, passed away. She did not attend his funeral. There have been so many occasions that my addicted loved one has been absent from because of her disease, birthdays, most importantly, her daughter's birthdays, Mother's and Father's Days, my retirement celebration, Christmases, funerals, and the list goes on and on. When I joined Nar-Anon over 2 years ago, I was so desperate and beaten down by the disease of addiction. I didn't know where to turn, but I knew that I needed help desperately and had reached my bottom. I have learned so much from this program, and it has changed my life. I am able to apply what I've learned to different aspects of my life. I've learned that I did not cause my daughter's addiction. I can't control it and I cannot cure it. I've learned that no is a complete sentence and that I don't have to attend every fight that I'm invited to. I've learned that during this journey, I didn't know what I didn't know. And now that I know better, I can do better. I learned that what I thought was helping was enabling. And I also learned the harsh truth that my enabling was helping keep my daughter in her disease. I've also worked on processing my feelings of guilt and shame. I felt guilt because somehow I believed that I had a hand in causing my daughter's addiction. One time that stands out in my memory was many years ago, probably in 2016. A police officer came to my home asking for my daughter. I said that she no longer lived there, but her car was still registered to our address. They were actually looking for her boyfriend, who had committed robbery and was seen driving her car. I was so ashamed to tell the police officer that I did not know where my daughter was living, and I started crying. He said, "It's okay. It's not your daughter we're looking for. She's not in trouble." He didn't know or understand that I was crying because I did not know where my daughter was living, and I wasn't allowed to know. This was one of the hardest things for me to come to grips with. As her mother, I always knew where my daughter was. Before addiction, my daughter always lived at home, and even though she was an adult, she willingly told us where she was going, who she was going with, and where she was staying out of respect for us. As a mom, having to accept that I couldn't know where she was took a long time to get used to. It kept me awake at night, but I have accepted this fact now. Although that particular visit from the police was not for my daughter, there were other visits from the police. The police have been involved in my daughter's life, and she has been before and is still involved in the criminal justice system. With the help of Nar-Anon, I've also accepted that although my daughter has treated me terribly, I allowed that to continue for far too long. I practice this program when I communicate with my addicted loved one. I pause when I communicate with her, and I do not offer advice or tell her what to do, which means that I'm minding my own business and staying in my own lane. My addicted loved one just recently reached out, and we've been texting for about 2 weeks. In our first text, she shared that she's been homeless for about 8 months and was trying to get herself to a relapse prevention bed at a treatment center. My response to her was, "I trust that you will figure this out." This is a neutral statement that I learned from Nar-Anon, and it was also my way of telling her that I was not offering her a way out of her situation. I am using Nar-Anon tools that I've learned, and I do not feel the need to swoop in to rescue her, which is huge progress for me. She has been very respectful in her communication, which is not always the case for her. She's 36 years old and needs to figure this out. What I will do is encourage her and pray that she finds her way. She advised me yesterday that she's going to a sober living safe house next week. Before Nar-Anon, I would have been elated by that news and would have been offering her any help that I could and telling her the other things she should be doing. Today, I tell her that I'm proud of her for taking these steps, and I leave it there. Please don't misunderstand, though. I am very grateful that she will be in a safe place with a roof over her head. I will continue to be a grateful member of Nar-Anon. I will continue to live my life and enjoy family time with my husband, daughter, son-in-law, granddaughter, sister-in-law, wonderful friends, and last but not least, my four-legged baby, whom I cherish and adore. I will enjoy my retirement and traveling with my husband and be grateful for the life that I have. Although addiction has been a major part of our family and consumed my life for far too many years, I can no longer let it be the focus of my life. I have, with the help of Nar-Anon, gotten off the roller coaster ride of addiction and put my focus back on myself where it belongs. A Nar-Anon slogan that I like is listen to learn, share to heal. By allowing me to share my story with all of you in a safe, non-judgment space is a big step in my healing. For all of the newcomers in the room tonight, please keep coming back. This program works if you work it. So work it. You're worth it. Thank you.
Great job, Cheryl.
Great job, Cheryl. Thank you very
Cheryl.
much.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Cheryl.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you.
You nailed that, Cheryl. Excellent.
Thank
Okay,
you.
take a deep breath and pour a cup of tea, and while we listen to
Thank you, Cheryl.
my twin sister, Lisa C., the other Lisa C. from Kitchener. The floor is all yours, Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa. And thank you, Cheryl, for your great sharing tonight. Hi, my name is Lisa C., and I qualify as a member of Nar-Anon because I have been affected by someone else's addiction. That someone else is my adult son. I did not have anyone in my immediate family who suffered from an addiction growing up, although a cousin did have an addiction problem. I've been a grateful member of Nar-Anon for 3 years, 8 months, and 12 days. That's a long time, and the person I am today, thanks to Nar-Anon, is very different from the person who logged on to her first meeting over 3 years ago. I have 2 children, a daughter and a son. My daughter has been estranged from us since 2018. I am also a grandmother, although I say in name only, as I have been estranged from my grandson, my daughter's son, since 2018. I had never experienced such grief and loss as this ever before. It caused me health problems for a long time. In 2020, my daughter gave birth to a second child, my second grandchild. I have never met this one. I don't know if it's a boy or a girl, their birth date, what they look like, or anything. Christmas 2020, I sent a package containing 2 toys for the grandchildren. A week later, I got a notice from the post office that said there's a package at the post office that requires a signature. When I presented my notice to the staff person, they said that the package I sent for my grandchildren was rejected at the door and was returned to sender on my dime. I paid to send it to my daughter and had to pay for its return to me. I was pissed, heartbroken, and in disbelief. That was in 2020. We have had no contact since 2018, grieving the loss of a daughter and 2 grandchildren that we know of. Thank God we still had a son that was okay, or so I thought. Our son grew up in a normal, loving family. He had great potential, I thought. He went through life as though life happened to him. He was easily influenced by others, a follower. Growing up, he loved playing sports, hanging out with friends, and was the life of the party. Nothing wrong with that, I thought. What I missed were the subtle signs that he had started using in high school. He was good at hiding the drug use and making excuses when I questioned him. When I asked him why his eyes were so red a lot of the time, he said it was allergies, so I believed him. When I asked why his pupils were so big, he said he was awake too long after partying the night before. I believed him. He said there were no drugs at the party, just a bit of booze, but his friends' parents were okay with it. I believed him, but I wasn't happy with the parents' relaxed attitude with alcohol, and they were underage. When I asked him why he was sleeping for hours into the afternoons, and I had to wake him up with half an hour to spare before his shift at work started, in case he was late, I was worried he might lose his job. He said he was a teen guy and they needed more sleep. Excuse me. Back then, I ignored the signs. I enabled him, although I had no idea what it meant before coming to Nar-Anon. For the newcomers, enabling means doing for the addict what they are capable of doing for themselves. I let him drive my car to work because I felt that if he rode his bike or used public transit, he wasn't responsible enough to get himself to work on time. I enabled him. I'm ashamed to admit that there was a period of time when I let him take my car and I took the bus to work. He accumulated parking tickets and other infractions which he didn't pay. And I only found out about them because they came addressed to me because I was the owner of the car. I made him pay the tickets, even though he argued with me that the cops were the ones that were wrong in charging him. I remember one ticket came with photo evidence that showed my car was parked in a no parking zone, and I definitely hadn't parked there. Another time he was convicted of theft. We did find out that he had to go to the court. Again, he said it was a mistake. He went to court and had to deal with the consequences. We did not enable him. I had known of other parents who had similar challenges with their children and couldn't imagine it happening in our family. I hoped it wouldn't get any worse. He finished high school but did an extra year to improve his grades to have a better chance of getting into a university program. That year was memorable, but not for the right reasons. One time when he was out, I decided to clean and neaten his room. Normally, this was his responsibility. It was an absolute mess, despite my many efforts to tell him, reason with him, and threaten to toss out his stuff. Hidden in the back of his closet on the floor, I found drugs. Finding them and realizing what they were, I was shaking. I was so mad, more mad than I had ever been in my life. When he came home, I confronted him. He said they were his, but he accused me of blowing things out of proportion. It was not a good scene, and I am not proud of how I reacted. He was in tears, and I could not stop yelling. My husband was in shock at how I was reacting. I remember that he didn't say a word. All I knew was I had to get rid of the drugs. I thought of flushing them down the toilet, but if I did that, it would probably result in a large plumber's bill and could damage the toilet. Plus the embarrassment if the plumber successfully removed the drugs and paraphernalia. I abandoned that solution in favor of a better idea. I drove to a gas station and dumped the drugs in an outside garbage bin. After I returned home, sanity returned, and I realized that the gas station had cameras, and my act of dumping the drugs was no doubt caught on camera. Insanity. The next time I found drugs, same yelling, although this time he said they weren't his. I had to get rid of them again. No gas station this time. I drove to a community center and dumped them in a garbage can. I remember how heartbroken I was, and I sat in my car for a long time and cried. When I got home, I realized that children go to the community center and they could potentially find the drugs. My loved one's addiction had caused me to behave insanely. My life was unmanageable. He did manage to get accepted to a university in the city we live in, but chose to work 4 part-time jobs so he could afford to live in residence on his dime. Somehow he was successful in finishing his first semester despite still using, but he got kicked out of residence in second semester and failed his courses. That was the end of his short university career. He continued working odd jobs, but had grandiose ideas about life that did not match his level of education. During the years that he lived back home with us, his moods were unpredictable, most likely to his using, and on 2 occasions our walls suffered holes in them when he went into rages. After a number of years, my son decided to move out west. During phone calls to us, I suspected that he had been using based on his behavior and the things he would say. He has been away for 10 years now. A few years ago, he came home for a visit and told us he had been using drugs continuously for 14 years. That was a shock to me. And he blamed me for his using. At my first Nar-Anon meeting, I learned the 3 C's. I didn't cause it, I can't control it, and I can't cure it. Over the years, I tried everything to get him to stop. I tried reasoning with him, I yelled, I tried to convince him to attend an NA program. Nothing worked. I sent him cash, clothing, many other items, gift cards for food, etc., not knowing that all these items could be traded for drugs and could be sold. Kijiji was his favorite form for selling his belongings. One time I happened to see a sweater we had given him for Christmas listed for sale on there. I learned in my meetings that anything and everything equals cash for the addict. We got calls all times of the day and night, him in a panic and in a drug-induced psychosis. One time I spent 1.5 hours in the grocery store cereal aisle trying to talk sense to my loved one and offering advice, only to be yelled at and told I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Again, I'm sure the staff in charge of watching the cameras must have wondered what the hell was wrong with me. Eventually, I realized I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I decided I couldn't keep doing the same things and expecting things to change. That's the definition of insanity. I heard the other day that you are not his 24/7 helpline. And that really hit me. And I've been repeating that in my mind each day. I Googled help for parents whose children use drugs, and Nar-Anon popped up. I attended my first virtual meeting October 8th, 2021. I decided that I would attend meetings only long enough for the members to tell me the trick to fix my son, and then I'd be out of here. That's not how this program works. I met members who had been coming for a few weeks, some a few months, some years, and some decades. No, that would not be me. I learned that Nar-Anon was not for my son. Nar-Anon was for me and my recovery. It is a 12-step program I have to work in order to recover from my addiction to the addict. I learned that addiction is a disease, not a moral deficit. Addiction is a disease, not because of bad parenting, not from being an imperfect spouse or partner. Step 1 says we admitted we were powerless over the addict, that our lives had become unmanageable. There was definitely proof in my own life that this was true. Nothing I tried before, or in the present, or in the future could make my loved one stop using. I was powerless over him. The only person I could control was me. Nar-Anon promises that if I attend meetings, read my literature, work the steps, preferably with a sponsor, focus on me, make a searching and fearless moral inventory of myself. This is step 4. Practice the slogans, share at meetings to share my experience, strength, and hope to other members, and practice the principles in all my affairs. If I do all these things, then I can recover from my addiction to my addict. It seems like a lofty, unattainable promise. However, all that is required of us is to start. Start with step 1. I am powerless over people, places, and things. I can change my behavior, my reactions, just for today. On page 6 of the little blue book, it says, just for today, I will try to live through this day only and not tackle my whole life problem at once. I can do something for 12 hours that would appall me if I had to keep it up for a lifetime. I love the Sesh book, Sharing Experience, Strength, and Hope, our daily reader. In the back, we find pages that help us learn about the steps, traditions, sponsorship, feelings, emotions, anything that we may need help with in the moment. I love the slogans. They help me to stay grounded and bring me back to the present when I feel myself slipping back into old habits. It's not an old behavior if I'm still doing it. That one often stops me in my tracks. Expectations are just disappointments or resentments waiting to happen. I have this one written on an index card and it sits on my dining room table as a daily reminder. Old ways won't open new doors. Where there is breath, there is hope. Detach. Don't even think about changing him or her. Hope. Hold on, pain ends. Or hold on, peace exists. It works if you work it, so work it, you're worth it. I love this one, and we say it together at the end of every meeting. What I allow continues. This one reminds me about setting boundaries for myself. When I'm anxious, it's because I'm living in the future. When I'm depressed, it's because I'm living in the past. I have to remind myself to avoid future tripping. I have my higher power, and the addict has his higher power, and it's not me. Serenity is what we get when we stop hoping for a better past. Through service, or step 12, sharing, leading a meeting with the topic of the week, sponsorship, and other ways, we fulfill step 12 of the 12 steps. Being a topic lead is easy. We have a script to read from, choose our topic, and share on it. Very easy. For those who haven't done this before, I encourage you to try it. I keep coming back to my Naranon meetings 3 years, 8 months, and 12 days on because this program works. The members here are my family. They support me in my recovery, and I support them in theirs. I'm grateful to the groups and the program for helping me find my way back to myself again, apart from my addicted loved one. I'm happier and treasure my Naranon family. Until the addict decides for himself to stop using, the drugs will continue to win. He's not choosing drugs over me. He's choosing drugs over not drugs. And I have zero control over that. In my meetings, I always hear, keep coming back. Those 3 words mean so much to me. I'm an instruction follower. Whether at the doctor's and I'm told to do something to make me feel better, or reading the instructions before plugging in a new appliance or assembling a piece of furniture, I follow the instructions. Keep coming back. I can't hear it often enough. As a newcomer, it gave me hope that I can recover. As an old timer, it gives me hope that maybe by my sharing, I can encourage and support all Naranon members, new and old, to keep coming back so they can experience the miracle of recovery, our recovery, not the addicts. For the newcomers, I never thought I would need an Naranon meeting, but I'm glad they're here, and I'm glad you found us. You're in the right place. You can recover. Keep coming back. My addicted loved one still suffers from his disease, and I hope he can find recovery one day. I have no control over that. The best I can do is work my program. One important part I've left to the end is sponsorship. Although I have resisted getting a sponsor so far for different reasons, I do realize the support and growth I've been missing out on by not having one. I just got a sponsor and know this is another way I can better work my program. I encourage newcomers not to wait 3 years before they find a sponsor. As a grateful member of Naranon, I am putting the focus back on me, one day at a time. I'll end with this slogan. It all begins and ends in your mind. What you give power to has power over you. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much,
Lisa.
Lisa, and keep
Thank
coming
you,
back.
Lisa. Great
Lisa.
job.
Great job, Lisa.
Wow. I'm speechless for a change. So what I'm going to do, first I'm going to stop recording.